I'm Manoj Ramnani, and I am excited to welcome you all to our first episode of Partnership Go-to-Market Roundtable series. So why are we here? Why are we talking about partnership? Since the beginning of this year, we at SalesIntel talked to 100 go-to-market leaders, and we asked them one question. Where will you put your investment? We get them 100 pennies. Where will you put your investment to generate the most optimal pipeline that generates revenue at the end of the day? And partnership was the number one channel for B2B companies in 2024 to generate the pipeline and revenue. So that piqued my interest as to why partnership is the number one, why in 2024, what is the impact of partnership for SaaS businesses, and how to get started, and how do we take the next steps of making partnership as a go-to-market strategy. So to answer all these questions, we have assembled an amazing panelist here. With us, we have Sangram from Go-to-Market Partners, Asher from Partnership Leaders, and Jason from Arcadia. So why don't we take a minute and get the introductions from our panelists here.
I'm happy to do mine. Maybe I should do Asher or let me try. Let me see if you
actually,
can.
if you intro me, I'll intro you. How's that?
Oh my goodness. So let me do Jason, and then we'll figure out where to go. All right. So I'm going to introduce Jason. Jason has been in partnership roles forever. He was one of the first partnership person I know who actually understood and started working on partnership the way I think it has been forming lately. And then I had a pleasure of working with him at Terminus. Then he has worked with Drift and actually built their multi-million-dollar partnership program over there in a big ways. He's now running Arcadia. He just hosted this incredible partner offsite almost with about 50 people or so in Montana, where there are more cows than people. This is a legitimate fact, people. There are more cows than people in Montana. And he's assembling with this Arcadia group a tribe of really high-level, executive-level partnership people. And I think Corey and Antonio, I think you guys were part of that too. Mm-hmm. So that's my little bit. He has an amazing wife, Sam, that we know. She's also a partner with it. They have they have a few beautiful kids. And
she's on this webinar tomorrow.
Yep, that's right. We will have Sam here talking about the partnerships and the next topic of the series.
There you go. That's my intro for Jason. So leave it up to you all.
So now Jason's going to do for Asher.
Let's do it. So I've had the pleasure of knowing Asher since like 2017, 2018. One of the first people I actually partnered with in the space. I think you were at Lean Data, Asher. So Asher was building partnerships at Lean Data, went on to a couple of other companies before making an exit with Demandbase through OpenView, InsideView, if I recall.
Demand Matrix to Demandbase.
Demand Matrix. It was one of the two companies. So yeah. And now he started the premier partner community in the space, really doing the Lord's work to drive partnerships forward and faster. Through all the research, reports, the partnerships they're building. He mentioned earlier, though, the chief partnership officer work they're doing. So Dylan has done a tremendous amount of work, and I've been lucky enough to be a part of it since day one in the partnership leaders community. Great conference going on next week. Catalyst, I think about 1,500 people or so is what you might be expecting. So a big turnout, lots of the greatest partner leaders and the new partner leaders in the space to come and learn from over in Chicago. So if you're on here, you're not a part of partnership leaders, now's your chance.
Sweet. That was even better than I would have done it.
That's the point.
All right.
If this wasn't planned, so everybody knows this is not planned. This is
definitely not planned.
Yeah. Who do you want me to introduce? Sangram or Manoj?
Do things when we are not on live, right? So
exactly.
We did all the prep except this.
Except for this one.
Way to throw a wrench in the plan, Sangram.
Yeah. That's what I do.
All right. Who do you want me to introduce? Do you want me to introduce Sangram or Manoj?
Yeah. Sangram is good.
Sangram, okay. All right. So Sangram I've known for how long now? Like 5 years or 6 years? Actually, ever since I was at Lean Data, when I got into understanding how lead routing works. And then Sangram was at Terminus, and I was trying to partner with them. And there was another guy by the name of Brian Brown, who I was like, hey, we should do something together. And then Brian was like, I don't have time for you. Go talk to Sangram. So I'm like, okay, I'll go talk to Sangram. And so then I started with Sangram, and then I found that the guy is like uber authentic, very genuinely interested in supporting marketers and elevating their role and just elevating the role of marketing in organizations. And then since then, we have stayed connected. And actually, like, we have one of the best parts of knowing Sangram is we have, I think, every 4 to 6 weeks an hour-long chat where we challenge each other on each other's business, because we'll be walking around and be like, hey, dude, did you think about this about your business? Because that may be effed up. And then that's literally how the conversation starts. But I'm thrilled to actually be on this panel with him, because I wanted to present with him, and hopefully we'll do this someday in person. But if you have ever had if you've never had a chance to watch Sangram live, it's a treat. And I had a chance to see him a couple of times, but my most favorite time was when they actually did this road show in the demand-based office, and it was amazing. It was just incredible. I think there were like 80 people in there. They were all plugged in, tuned in, and then I was like, where does Sangram get his energy? And that started a whole bunch of different conversations.
Great question.
So, and then we had the chance to again really partner with Sangram on the go-to-market partner-led growth report, where we provided data from some of the surveys that we did. And I would say if you're looking for a research and advisory firm that is very modern, you should totally call him up.
Man, there you go. I'm glad this is all recorded. So great, I'm going to use that.
Very just a quick plug about Sangram, Asher, and Jason, about how I met them. Very first time, I remember someone come to my office. He's like, Manoj, we got to do partnership with Terminus. I'm like, all right. You need to talk to Sangram. You're connected first degree. I'm like, I don't remember talking to him ever. So I reached out to Sangram. Sangram was like, meet me at the HubSpot event. Sangram, if you remember, I was trying to pitch Sangram at the HubSpot inbound event. We have the best data. We can put it into Terminus, and from there to watch his journey, start go-to-market leaders, partners. We've been clients, partners, friends. So that's Sangram. And Asher and I met at Lean Data, and we didn't end up doing business together. But first time we met there, and then I seen your journey, Asher, and I remember in Silicon Valley, one of the summer, like 2 summers ago, Sangram, Asher was trying to whiteboard as to what has become the partnership leaders, right? This business today. And what an amazing lineup you have for next week, right? The conference in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, next week, a week from now. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so from that whiteboard to look at where you have come. Before this, I don't think there was a conference that was dedicated for partnership. Right? Am I right?
I think that there was. Sunir did a fantastic job of putting together SaaS Connect. But I think that the issue really was like, where does this role actually go, right? And like, how does this actually get elevated? And that wasn't like, all of that stuff became much clearer when SAP and Microsoft appointed chief partner officers and started rolling their organization, their partner, centralizing their partner organizations underneath those executives. And that's quite frankly what we co-opted into, and which is what made us what we are today.
This is great. From your whiteboard vision to here. So kudos to you, and being a true thought leader in the industry. And Jason and I met very first time at PFL. He was running partnership. We were doing a deal, and then he invited me to the event, their PFL's event, and what a treat that was. I know the Big Sky, Jason, that's what you guys called it, right?
Yep, Big Sky, Big Ideas.
Big Sky, Big Ideas. The fantastic time there, and ever since then, I've seen Jason create, really put the concepts and the best practices of partnerships into practice, right, and show the results to the industry. Especially at Drift, the numbers were monumental, just phenomenal progress. So the great way to tee this thing up, Sangram, for you you have done a lot of you have done a lot of research, right? Last year, going into the first part of this year, I would love for you to share with the audience what was the research and what are the numbers that tell the story.
Yeah, the research really started off with a caveat. I did not believe in partnerships. Like, just being straight up, like that wasn't what the goal was initially before we even got into the research. I've been with Pardot, and so believed in inbound and marketing automation, done outbound like with ABM. That has been my history. So that's all I believed in, is inbound and outbound, way to grow, like way to drive business, way to do things. Anything else is just a add-on. Like, it's something that you could do on the side. And yeah, partnerships are good, but there are a bunch of people who just talk all day long about partnerships, drink beers, and don't do anything. Like, that was my view on partnership, just being totally open, frank.
Hugs and chugs, that's the term.
That's the term. Okay, good. And
As,
Asher is proving
as your
that
former
by
VP of partnerships, I'm going to have a lot of questions later.
Well, that's before I made Jason, and then obviously everything changed, right? And clearly Asher is proving that I'm wrong with next week that he's putting this big massive event with partner leaders from all over the place. So it all started with, like, when everybody hit the ceiling with growth at all cost, where can you change and change your dials to finally figure out, okay, I can't just put more sales people and SDR and AE bodies. I can't just run enough ads to drive outcomes. I can just not get enough data to send countless mindless emails to people. Where would I actually start? And it became very evident that what was happening behind the scenes, with absolutely no love given to partners, who were the ones who were actually carrying the bag and the weight for a lot of the companies that were successful. So that led us to this whole research, which is on, and I'll offer research is free on GTM Partners. It's called Understanding Partner-Led Growth, because I personally felt like I became a student of what partnership really is, and we define different ways of partnership. So what you see up here are just some of the data sets and that results that we found out. We partnered up with Asher and his community to get some data. We partnered up with PartnerStack to see what they are doing. So even that, we partnered up with Crossbeam and Reveal, which is what you see over there. And we started to see that across the board, revenue-wise, ROI-wise, the time to sell, how long it takes, and the deal size. In every area, deals being sourced out of partnership became the driving force for most successful companies. And that to me was eye-opening, because I went from a naysayer and a hater of like, I don't get it, I don't know how to measure it, I don't know where it is, to like, oh my gosh, at this point, when everybody's talking about efficient growth, the real question is how do you create efficient growth? And I think partnership has a big answer there.
That's great. And Sangram, I don't think you're alone. I was in your camp. I just thought, you need somebody to call it a partnership, but there was no tangible revenue. There was no defined KPIs that were associated. And then we saw a couple of companies, Jason being one, at Drift, define those KPIs, put the framework together, and showed the world. And I think a couple of those heroes in the partnership space, they showed the world that, look, it's not just a position on your org chart that doesn't have a KPI. You can put the revenue KPIs behind it, right?
Yeah. And it's not something that most companies even today understand. And I'm sure Asher and Jason, you guys would get into this, is like, I don't think it's well understood. Most CEOs we talk to as part of our research advisory, when we say, hey, one of your go-to-market motions seems like should be partner-led, they just don't have a spreadsheet where they can pop in SDR, AE, number of calls, number of meetings equals to pipe equals to revenue, which is literally the world that we have done for the last 2-3 decades. They don't have they don't have that. And so partner deals are bigger deals. Partner deals, that is a big concept, but people fail to realize that, whoa, well, I want deals right now, like this month, this quarter. And I think those are the things that actually keep pulling back resources from partnership. I don't know if Jason or Asher, you guys would have a different perspective on that.
I can just give a little bit of a historical thing to you all. So like partnerships existed forever, right? But unfortunately, the type of partnerships that were being built inside of technology companies were more focused on just driving sales only, which the word channel specifically describes, right? So there's lots of channel sales that have been happening for quite some time, right? And traditionally, and I've seen this, witnessed this, and I've been accused of this too, right? The people that didn't work out in direct sales, like people would say, hey, you go take a shot at this channel sales stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what but really what should have happened is the company should have just fired those people and just said, hey, if you're not working in direct sales, channel sales is like 10 times more difficult. You're not going to be able to work there either, right? And so that's what I believe has created this perception, which then became a reality, which was amplified because, again, if you want to go work with Microsoft or Sage or any one of these big ecosystem players, like you have to be a partner of theirs and you need channel sales reps. Now, what's happened over time is that product organizations, because they need to innovate and address customer demands, they needed to go partner too. So you actually had a different type of a persona, which we could bucket under this term called tech partnership manager, get created. And those people were more product manager-ish types versus just purely sales types, because they have to understand platform, they have to understand API, they have to understand how embed works. And that's actually, at least from my own opinion, how some of this business-minded partnership folks started to come in. And now what you're seeing is there's just the same thing that happened with sales and sales leadership. The same type of focus on demonstrating your value to the rest of the organization is being asked of the partnership leaders, and they're learning to become business leaders. And that's the reason why it's more partnerships, I think, is having a much better moment now than ever before, is because the leaders are wanting to go take that jump to become business leaders rather than just sales leaders. So at least that's what I've seen.
I think you're spot on. Like the role is really having to mature right now as it becomes more and more of a front and center table stake, right? It's like you're seeing all this research and report coming out from GTM partners, Pavilion, partnership leaders, et cetera. It's like now that we're seeing it, we got to have more mature leaders in the seat. And, you know, part of the problem, Singham, you were just talking about that I was thinking about was like a lot of these, there's no RevOps playbook on how to operationalize the partner motion yet. People like Antonio, who's in the chat here in the room, is like building that motion out, building that playbook out to make more of a partner ops play more standard, so you can begin to measure, track, and establish those KPIs and build more of a case around it. But like around operationalizing a partner program doesn't have like a standard guideline right now, or guidebook, which is like I think we have to get to for the future of this to grow.
And that's really, really good point too, because the tech stack, I think, has like 212 companies in it. And there's really like 20 companies of note. But the sales tech stack and the marketing tech stack has what, 8,000 companies, or probably more in it now. And so there's just been a lack of innovation on the tool side too, which had this been done before the last 5 years, we probably would have had much better tooling that solve some of this attribution and all these other problems that we used to have.
Yeah,
right. So like more and more companies are realizing and going and planning to have some sort of partnership role formally on their go-to-market side, right? And I think the next slide we have a number of positions, like over 65%. Sangram, this was one of your came out of one of your study, right? 65% of companies have open partnership roles, right? That's a huge number. My question, which Asher mentioned, like why partnerships were perceived as just a placeholder and not a revenue generator, was because you put your B- players or C players into those partnership roles. But where should companies look for, right? So if partnerships are roles are important, everybody's looking for. Should we hire kids from college and groom them, or should we hire successful AEs? Should we hire successful sales leader? Where do you start to fill these roles?
Yeah, this is an interesting parallel because I think about how categories form, and I'm looking at ABM because I was closest to that category. And I thought the best ABMers will be the people who are in marketing, right? Account-based marketing. So if you have been in marketing, especially if you have been in a demand gen role, like you might be the best person to do ABM. But as always, like I learn more than than I kind of walk into it. The best roles after seeing thousands of companies, and obviously for 8 years I was in that space, like all in, and I saw that the best ABMers were the people who actually came from sales, because they understood, they understand how numbers work. The other next best people were field marketing people. Why? Because the field marketing people were closest to the salespeople, and they didn't have any goal but to make their field regional leaders successful. And those were the two, the digital marketing person becoming an ABMer or demand gen person. They did what they knew, which is more ads or more emails or more whatever. But the field marketing person or salesperson, they didn't care what the menu of options you could use. They just wanted to make sure and figure out what is the best way to grow that particular or make their sales team win. So it was a big aha moment, because I was completely, I stood corrected on that one after a number of years, thinking the exact opposite. I think it's the same is probably what's happening in the partner world. I imagine that the partner people in many ways were like, yeah, the best salespeople maybe should become like the top AEs or top people who know how to build relationships. But I have seen in my experience that people who do better RevOps actually are great at partnerships, because they can get very quickly to, all right, what are we doing here? How can we align on this thing? Here's what our goal is. They can figure out very quickly if should we work on these tier 1 partners or tier 2 or tier 3. They can look at this as an entire go-to-market strategy. So I feel like the jury for me is still out, and I'm curious, Asher and Jason, on your end, if you guys have seen, since you're way more closer to that role hiring right now that you're seeing and you track it.
Yeah, I think personally, like it's kind of like that kind of a GTM leader, right? Someone who understands the full funnel of like how to, drive it from awareness to close one opportunity to retention and customer success. Like it's a true, go-to-market leader function, in my opinion. It's like you have to know how to work with marketing, how to work with sales, how to work with CS, and even how to work with product. And that's very much a a role that requires a lot of functions, right? No longer is it we have to be more generalist than specialist. It's like, whereas an AE or a salesperson is more specialized, the generalist is going to have more of the experience and coming into the role with opportunities of building marketing campaigns, building sales motions, and working with CS on how to drive retention and expand opportunities. So for me, it's like I'm looking for people that have a vast experience that can bring into the role.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a slightly different point of view on this thing, right? One, I would thought that product marketers would make pretty good partnership people, because they need to understand exactly what the customer is looking for, tie the two stories together, and then prioritize from there. So the jury's still out on this thing, but I think the personality has to be somebody who is a builder and a connector. Like if you're missing that, I think you're not going to make it. Like, and I'm pretty sure. Now, the interesting part is when you become a senior partnership leader, you have to become an operator.
Yeah.
And so you have to transition from your builder and connector persona to becoming an operator persona. And that's transparently a really big challenge.
It is.
For I would say for partnership leaders, but I think for all leaders, right? Like, but definitely for partnership leaders, because you have to like take out your externally facing, like let's call it traits, and really go become an internal facing person. It's just tough.
Yeah. So for me, I believe that all the traits, Asher, that you just outlined are the traits of a CEO, of an entrepreneur, right? So if you can find an entrepreneur who has sold his company or had not had success but wants to do something else, I think this is a perfect role for them, because they're tenacious, they're connector, they're operator, they can wear multiple hats, they dabble with product or technology, right? So if you find someone who wants to be part of a winning team, I've seen in the larger organizations, right, that the public companies, oftentimes the companies that they end up acquiring, the CEOs of those companies, they put them under strategic alliances and partnerships, and they do miracles for those large companies.
Yeah, totally. Because I mean, in the scenario that you just described, like you're acquiring a CEO of a company, and then that person isn't going to go become a VP of sales, because the role just feels too small, right?
Yep.
And so, but then also the company that is acquiring the company, that CEO has a role that takes about 20 odd % of their time, which is biz dev and corp dev, and they need to find somebody to give that to, so they can work on like other stakeholder management, right? Like investors and stuff like that. And so then that person becomes an awesome ally, because they've been in the CEO's shoes before, and they're also not looking for that high profile of a role.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So
it is a founder-led motion in a way, like it just, all of this is reminding me and making it more clear as I'm taking, like, it's like a founder-led sales, like we talk about right now, like people in all companies right now of all sizes, I'm hearing across the board, be the CEOs that always have been more in the operator role are actually coming back into more of like, all right, I need to be on the sales call, I need to be doing sales and do that. So I think it's a really interesting learning for me during this conversation itself.
That's great. So actually, you have been very deep into KPIs, right? Like how many, what should the team look like? What % of revenue should come from partnership or is coming from partnership? We would love for you to double click on those numbers a little bit.
Yeah. So the background behind all this is, when I went full time last year, I went and started spending time with some of the senior folks in our community. And every one of them asked me the same question: what does good look like? And how do I compare with other people? And so rather than share a thought leadership, we're like, let's actually just go pull some data out to understand the reality of where we are. And so what we've got, at least right now, is and I know this isn't going to be foreign to people that are in partnerships on this call, but if you're in sales and marketing on this call, like the average number of people, partnerships teams are driving anywhere between 10 to 50% of revenue, but you have to build towards it. And one of the reasons why partnership leaders actually went a little bit more enterprise is because the enterprise companies have figured it out. Like I was just on the phone with like the chief partner officer of Wipro, and they actually talked about how they went from like 20% to 50%. And while the journey